Hey, yo, what's up? It's your boy, Sir, of the 2020 Podcast, LLC. Please say the LLC. And before you listen to this episode, I just got to let you know, I need you to stop what you're doing. Go to blkrenaissance.com, and I need you to shop for the culture. That's right. Anytime you use the promo code LLC20 at Black Renaissance Clothing's website, you will get 20% off your order. Off rip, no questions asked. So do me a favor and do it for the culture. Peace.
Hey, this is KJ, and I have a question for you. When was the last time you got something nice for yourself? That's what I thought. So why not visit www.theblurredsyndicate.com and get something that will help you express who you really are. They've got shirts, mugs, purses, mouse pads, and even aprons for the grillers of the family. So if you're a fan of anime, pro wrestling, or hell, even the Golden Girls, the Blurred Syndicate has got you covered. Also, if you use the code LLC20 at checkout, you'll get 20% off your order. So what are you waiting on? I got mine. Come get yours. And remember to join the BS.
Hey, this is Butter So Fly of Powerlines Poetry, here to let you know anytime I feel good, I have to look good, so you have to listen to me. Make sure you go to gurudesigns.com, use a 3 instead of an E. The website is great, so you can get something for yourself, and then she makes custom clothes for men too. And guess what? I got a promo code for you. Use 20/20 and it'll get you 15% off of any order $25 or more. You can't beat that. Go to gurudesigns.com.
The self-destruct sequence has been activated. Repeat, the self-destruct sequence has been activated. This sequence may not be aborted. All employees proceed to the emergency car at the bottom platform.
Okay, we lit it just like a fuse, so no need to pick and choose. Welcome to 2020, where we do more than interviews. The hottest be coming through, jumping knowledge on all of you. Get a peek at the front of you with the truth that they offer you. Yeah, hands up, we doing it for the culture. To give artists and businesses more exposure. Keeping it real and stay silent just like a boulder. It's about to go all the way down, can't get no lower. Chasing my dreams, know that they get no slower. But if I stay running, I promise they getting closer. Moreover, success my older. And if you're sleeping on me, I'm waking them up like Folgers. I told you, coming from the land with the tide roll. Well, we'll be on a whole different vibe though. We like to ride slow and keep our windows tinted so you really can't see us. Like Stevie Wonder waking up with his eyes closed. Yeah, got the kind of flow that rock the boat. On my 16s of pounds of dough. And if you figure you can hang with me on the mic, then grab some rope. Matter of fact, better grab some hope. While you at it, we keep it live, it's time to tune in. Turn up the sound on what you're using. It goes so hard, I think it's bruising. The show is 2020, no need to zoom in. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy, Sir, of the 2020 Podcast, LLC. Please say the LLC. Hey, see, you know it. And I have a special guest, Miss Arielle Bryant has joined me today. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty damn great.
All right. So, to those of you that have tuned in, this will be kind of the precursor, I guess the preface, the prologue to the Women on Marriage series. Now, if you're curious as to what I'm speaking about, a few months back, I started the Men on Marriage series, where I got several Black men to speak about their thoughts on marriage, unedited, unabashed, unabridged. And we took that information and we put it out to the universe because we often are approached with the thought that men don't express their concerns or their wants or their desire to be married. Now, I knew that was untrue from my point of view, but I didn't realize from the Black women's point of view, there's a truth there as well. So, summoned my brothers, we got together, we put it out, and the response was overwhelming. So, to those of you who participated, who gave feedback, who tuned in, whether for 5 minutes or for the entire series, I want to humbly thank you, because with that, I'm able to continue and perform this Women on Marriage series. And I wanted to give it a little twist. I wanted to bring in some of the brightest minds I know and who are also licensed. So that being said, Ms. Bryant, if you could, just tell everyone who you are and what it is that you do for a living.
So, Arielle, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have been licensed ooh, for doing therapy for about 5, 6 years now, actually.
Mm,
Yeah, it's been a minute. Surprised. So yeah, my work is contextual. I love
mhm,
family therapy. I love working with more than one person in a room. And basically that's what my license says. Like that's what I'm trained to do is work with dynamics. And when I think of dynamics, I think of not just multiple people. I think of the relationship between you and your past, you and your community, you and your family, you and your partner,
mm,
you and who you thought you wanted to be. I work
mm.
with all of those. And so there's always multiple dynamics in the room, even if there's just one person. And that's what's interesting to me. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, before I get started, before we get started, should I say, I want to say thank you for taking time out your day to do this because you did not have to participate in this. But once we sat down and talked about it, and I explained what it was. You were super de duper down, and I
Of
am
course,
eternally
I
grateful.
had to do this for my friend. Plus, it's a really, really good idea. Like, honestly, I haven't
Mhm.
seen anyone do it before in this way. And I'm really super excited about what the project ends up being.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get right into it. So,
Do this.
with this conversation, there are some key points that I, as a black man, will approach from.
Mhm.
And of course, I cannot speak as a black woman, of course. So
Okay.
that's why I'm going to ask you some questions as a therapist, but I'm also going to ask them also as a black woman.
All right.
That exhale, though. So don't worry. They're not anything crazy or anything out the way. So
I'm pretty sure you can't ask me anything crazier than what my clients ask me. So,
good point. Good point. You got me there. All right. So I'm going to ask you uh, first,
Mhm.
what are your definitions of expectations, boundaries, and standards?
Ooh, Howard, these are not going to be hard. They're nothing out the way. um, expectations I see is the things that you require.
Mhm,
Um, Oftentimes people think they're synonymous with standards, and I don't think that they are.
mhm,
Um, because I've seen people lower their standards and still have high expectations, like all the time. Um, I think standards are kind of what you accept, and
mhm.
expectations are what you want and hope for. So, and that doesn't work. I'm gonna be straight up honest. I don't think that it works, but it happens often. I can say honestly, I've been in that situation. I'm trying to fix it though. But as far as boundaries, I think they are their safety. They're the
Mm,
limits around you to protect yourself. And you can't impose them on other people. Those are rules. If you're imposing them, they're rules. If they're for you and your protection, they're boundaries. So
interesting.
I like to look at it like a house. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
We have doors, we have walls to protect ourselves, right?
right.
But some people have access. They're allowed to come in and out of our space. We decide when that's going to happen. If someone crosses a boundary, they're trying to get in, you can always shut that door. You can always lock it. There's various steps that you can do to protect yourself, various severities of those boundaries. Um, if you're sitting in an open field without walls, you are not safe. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
And people gonna want to come in. They're gonna want to step foot into your space if you have something that they want, but that doesn't mean that they should always be allowed to. You are the one who defines whether or not they come in, when they come in, why they come in, and what they do once they're there. And it's your responsibility to enforce those boundaries.
Mm,
It's not theirs. It's not their responsibility to respect it. It's your responsibility to set it, to communicate it, and to enforce it. Because
mm,
most people are doing what they want to do. And sometimes what they want to do ain't got you in mind at all.
hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So that's going to bring me to my next question. I hate to hit you with another definition,
Okay.
but I have to after that lineup, after what you just stated. So, what is, because this is a word that's become fairly popular in mainstream. What is trauma?
Ooh. There's lots of definitions, but my favorite is trauma is defined as anything that's happened to you that caused a severe negative effect that impacted your life. And trauma can be damn near anything. Now, I like to refer as like big T or little t trauma. Big T trauma is the things you think of as traumatic, like major accidents or surgeries or um 9/11 obviously counts, wars,
Right.
starvation, famine, all those things, like big T traumas, PTSD, like you've been through some shit and we know you've been through some shit. That is what I consider big T trauma. But I also think that trauma, little T trauma can be the everyday hurts, the consistently being let down, um, having your boundaries crossed on a regular basis. Those hurts that they do affect your life in a negative way and they have a lasting impact and they also are very subjective. you know Somebody being pushed off of a diving board might laugh and somebody might be scared to ever go near a pool.
Mm, mm.
It's not up to me to decide what somebody considered traumatic. It's my job to help them through it.
Okay. Okay. Now I know right now I'm not having a lot of input. I'm absorbing.
Mhm.
The reason being is because I'm more interested in your point of view when it comes to these definitions and the examples for several reasons. One, like I said, you're already a therapist and you're already a black woman. So some of the things you are saying, some of the things you're saying are, I won't say surprising, but eye opening. Like
Mhm.
certain verbiages, certain things I'm hearing,
Mhm.
um, like the major and minor trauma thing I never really thought about before. So
Mhm.
is giving me something to think about because that obviously does affect the way we go about daily life
Mhm.
and interactions with people and relationships. And so let's talk about communication.
I love it. I love, love, love this topic.
Okay. I don't want to say it this way, but I think I'm going to have to. How fucked up do people have communication?
How fucked up do people have communication?
Yes. I
Like on a scale?
yes.
We gonna have
Using
to
one to
increase
ten.
the scale.
Um. Now, obviously, that statement was in jest, but I guess my actual question is, with communication, what are some of the more common, I guess, factors that you see are being overlooked, or I guess,
Most people don't know how to communicate. Let's start there.
okay.
They don't. I've seen grown people with the communication skills of toddlers. It's real frustrating sometimes, but I think most people think they know how to communicate. They speak the language and they
Mm,
say words and other people understand what those words are generally, and that's communication and that's enough. And I'm like, "No. No, 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 no." That's not how that works. So, there's some basics that most people know, like verbal versus nonverbal communication. Verbal communication being what you say, nonverbal communication being your tone. Not necessarily your
mhm.
tone, sorry. Verbal being what you say, how you say it, tone and stuff goes in there, but I'm talking about like body language,
Yeah. Okay.
positioning, whether you rolling your eyes and turning your head and like looking out the window when you speaking to me, that does not communicate well. That does not
Mm,
communicate that you care about anything that's being said. And a lot of times people are like, well, I'm talking to you. Well, you're not looking at me. You're not actually listening to anything I'm saying. You're not listening to understand. You're listening to respond. And then everything about what you're doing is demonstrating that. and you don't even see it.
Mm.
I've sat and watched couples particularly break down in communication. They're like, I don't understand why they just don't get it. I'm like, I do.
Mm.
Because from this perspective, you did not see your partner glaze, their eyes glazed over. They haven't been checked into this conversation for the last 5 minutes. You didn't see that you were raising your voice and that they steadily started to shrink back. You didn't see the point where you started demeaning them and calling them out their name or putting them down or accusing them of being just like their mother. Like
Mm.
people don't hear those things. And then that's my job to point it out. I'm like, slow down.
Right.
What did you hear them say? Well, they believe, no. What did they say?
Mm.
What did you understand?
Huh.
How did you interpret that? Because it actually is very different.
Okay, let's go into interpretation. Obviously, that is affected by the way you're brought up.
Yeah.
What are some of the practices or what are some of the tools you give your clients to kind of, because of course, when you live in your own world, you're your own main character, you know?
Of course. Some people don't believe that. Like they've never heard that phrase before.
Really?
I'm like, you are the main character in your story. You should be, at least, because I've seen
Right.
some people who weren't. But you get to decide if someone's labeled as a villain in your story or not. You do not get to decide if you're labeled as a villain in theirs. They are the main character in their story too. It ain't all about you, sweetheart.
Right. Right.
Empathy is a skill. Stepping into somebody else's point of view and perspective and understanding them is a skill. And I call it the curse of empathy because now that I've practiced understanding where other people come from, it is a lot harder for me to maintain the rage I would love to maintain on a daily basis. Like people piss me off and I can't stay mad because the first thing my brain does is like, okay, how does this make sense in their context? Make it make sense. And then I come up with something like, fuck. Okay, I guess they have a reason for acting like that. I still hate it though. Like, but that's one of the things I practice with my clients. And my favorite way to do that is using a behavior chain, which is trigger, a thought, a feeling, an action. And they're constantly happening. Trigger is anything that happened. It's a situation. Your thought is your interpretation of the situation. Your feeling is the logical response based on what you told yourself was true. And the action is what you chose to do about it. Example I like to use is if you're dancing with your partner and they step on your foot. That's the trigger. That's just the fact of the matter. That's what happened. Now, if you interpret it as, oh, that was an accident, it was a mistake. You may experience a little bit of concern. You may laugh it off. Fine. If you interpret it as petty jealousy or attack, or they were really secretly mad at you and they did that shit on purpose to hurt you, that was your interpretation. Then the feelings of anger or anxiety make sense. A logical response to what you told yourself was true. Now, I'm not saying it did happen. I'm not saying that was their intent at all, but I'm saying that's what you told yourself. And so your actions of arguing with them or like quitting the dance also makes sense.
Huh. Okay. Now, referencing the audiobook we talked about earlier, I understand in the book he mentioned that two things can be right at the same damn time.
More than two. Way more than two.
And that demonstrates it because your logic isn't necessarily wrong, nor is theirs. It's just the way it's communicated means two different things to each of you.
Yeah. Your perspective is very much controlled and limited by your experiences. If you grew up in a household where people were passive aggressive and they were constantly fucking with each other and they're saying, no, we're not. I didn't do that. You're making it up. You're crazy. Then of course, when someone steps on your foot while dancing, that's where your brain is going to automatically go to. That pathway has been carved in there deep. So you're going to think, oh, this is another example of the shit I've always known.
Mm,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
right.
I'm saying that you make sense and your feelings are always valid, but we can challenge what you're thinking and we can choose another action.
You know what? Do you think that's where, we have certain people, because I'm guilty of it. Certain people will shut down when it comes to communicating that because it will feel like an attack.
Mhm.
Do you feel that that type of approach, acknowledging that they're not wrong, would help, I guess, buffer that next challenge? Because when people hear challenge, sometimes they put people on the defensive.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'm noticing with clients, with friends, and everybody else, it's like there's a kind of an association with communication equals conflict. Like they struggle to
Mm,
communicate because they don't want to have a conflict. They don't want to fight. They don't want to argue. They don't want to do all those things. It's like those are just forms of communication. They are not the whole of it. Just because you're talking about how you feel and what you're experiencing doesn't mean it's a conflict. But if that's
mm.
what you view all communication is conflict, I understand why you don't want to do it.
Wow. That comes into play with child rearing
Mhm,
because a lot of us were taught not to question the
mhm.
authority of an adult. So when you feel you're an adult, you're entitled to not be questioned or challenged. Wow. Bars.
Yep. Yep. I've
Bars.
had
That's
that conversation with my dad a million times. He was like, "You're not listening to me." I said, "No, you have associated me listening to you and me respecting you with me doing what you told me to do.
mm,
I'm grown. Listening to you means hearing what you're saying, interpreting that information, and deciding whether or not it fits with my worldview and what I need right now. I will take it into consideration, but I am not obligated to do what doesn't serve me. That doesn't mean I don't love you or I'm not listening or I don't respect you. It means that I'm an autonomous human being who makes my own decision, kind of what you raised me to do.
mm,
Backfire,
mm.
didn't it?
Shit. Wow.
but
Okay. Okay.
but in relationships, even like partnerships, I see the same thing that they're not listening to me. Is it that they didn't listen to you or is it that they didn't do what you thought was right?
Mm,
Because I'm hearing them repeat back exactly what you said, which tells me they listened to you. They just
right.
didn't interpret it as the best option for them.
Mm, okay. So I guess what are some, because this before you can get married, you can date. Well,
Yeah,
you kind of have to. Well, you don't have to, but it's
you don't have
encouraged.
to. Our
um,
society is encouraged.
you know what I'm saying? Heavily. What's the word? It would behoove you.
Yeah, and that's not all. Like I said, that's in our society.
Right.
Part of the benefit of the work that I do now is that I have clients overseas, and I'm learning that the cultures are very very different.
Mm,
What I think makes normal logical sense is not the case over there. I'm like, why don't you just like go out on a few dates? Well, we're not allowed to see members of the opposite sex in public unless we're married. Okay, well, so yeah,
mm,
we got to figure out other options then.
right. Right. Yikes. Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
But
So
based on U.S. standards, yes, before you marry, you can date.
do you have any tips on early communication building exercises?
I encourage people to slow the hell down and get into the practice of reflecting what you hear
Mm,
because a lot of times what people hear is not what's being said, it's what they've interpreted. It's gone through that mental filter and it goes so quick that they really do believe that how they're reacting into what they're interpreting is the truth. That's not what was said to you. So before you get into the habit of responding, go into what I heard you say was what I'm understanding
mm,
is that makes me think XYZ. Is
right.
that right? Did I miss anything? Well, is there anything you would add? help me understand. Phrases like that hold back on this is my feelings and interpretations until you at least know what the hell you talking about. Because a lot of times people don't. I've watched so many people have so many separate conversations. Like they went down this track, they went down that track, and they arguing through the forest. I'm like, you ain't even talk about the same thing. No wonder they don't understand you.
I have an example of when that happened to me on dating. I was helping set up an event that they were hosting. And because that's my love language, acts of service. I love to be of service to someone. That's just my thing. To help you do something makes my fucking day. So I was in charge of decorating this particular table. I am not the greatest at decorating. So I went to her and I was like, hey, what exactly are you going for here? And her response was, well, just jazz it up a little. And that was the biggest. I don't know what the fuck that means. Like and then so I was like, wait, what do you mean? And I visibly saw the frustration. And she was like, what do you mean? What I mean? I was like, does not compute. I don't know what jazz it up is.
Yeah, like are we going like jazz festival? Are we going glitter? Like what, do you want me to just like throw confetti? I can do that. I can definitely throw confetti. Like that jazz.
Jazz confetti.
I don't know. Like I get what you're saying. And a lot of people, this is my point. A lot of people think they're communicating well and they're not. They're communicating about as well as toddlers.
Right. So
I hate to hear that. No one likes to be told that.
No, of course not. Because it requires adjustment. And people take that, as we established, we take that challenge and we go into defensive mode. So I guess in that instant, I guess what are some example clarifying questions you would encourage?
I think you asked a clarifying question and it was frustrating. The only thing I would have done differently is if that first, like, what do you mean by that, did not elicit a positive response, would be to, okay, let me explain to you how I'm interpreting it. When I think of jazz it up, I think of confetti.
Right.
That's what comes to mind. That's the only thing that's coming to mind when I think of jazzing it up.
Right.
Do you have something else in mind? Because at that point, there's a, yeah, no, that works. Or not quite. I mean, more like, can you put streamers on the thing? Can you light a couple of candles? Like, clarify, you know what I mean? But there's no starting point if you don't say, well, this is what I'm getting from this.
Okay. It makes sense. So meet them at where you are so they could find you and take you there.
Yeah, meet people where they at. And just being cognizant that because everybody's experiences are different, they don't interpret things the same way. They won't. They can't. It doesn't mean they're stupid or slow. It means that y'all got different life experiences.
That's fact. Okay. Now I'm gonna go down a bit of a rabbit hole here.
Let's
This
do
next
it.
question. Yeah, I'm so excited that you're down for this. Do you feel media? Do you feel media portrayal plays a factor in those expectations / boundaries / standards?
Yes, of course they do. Of course they do. Media plays a factor in damn near everything that we do at this point, though. That's the point. The whole point of media is to be able to influence. They're showing, like, there's teams of people that's like, what do the people want? How do we make them want what we want them to want? How do we figure out how to meet them where they're at and then bring them along the track that we would like them to go down? How do we make them want this? Like the common story, I think it was the De Beers family that bought all the diamonds and then decided that they were rare and did a whole media campaign that that diamonds are rare, and because diamonds are rare, diamonds are forever, and that is why it is the signature stone for engagement. They're not. Diamonds aren't rare. There's a shit ton of them, but they're being hoarded and released a little at a time. That makes them rare. The supply and demand. You know, there's other ones for more precious stones that have better quality or are more expensive or harder to find or blah 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 blah. But there's a media campaign that said that this is what the best of the best is, and if you care, then you'll get it.
That's annoying. That is so annoying. Damn.
That white picket fence.
Oh, can we talk about that for a second? Okay.
In a housing community where the market is crashed and no one can build shit, but you're supposed to have it. I'm like, what if I don't like a fucking fence? What if I want moss for grass? What if I don't want neighbors? What if I don't want 2 kids?
What if I don't want kids, man? Okay. So, since we already discussed media playing a huge factor on what we believe, how do you feel?
Sorry.
You got you.
I had a thought. There's a show out called The Ultimatum. Have you seen it?
No, what is it?
It is on Netflix and it is wild. You got, was it 8, 10 couples, something like that, where one person was like, I want to get married. And the other person's like, I'm not ready yet. And they have agreed to go on this show to be filmed, figuring that shit out. Dating everyone else in this group to see if somebody else in this collection of people would be a better fit for them.
Wow, that's
decide if they're going to get engaged at the end of the show.
That's so egregious.
Or if they're going to break up for good.
Oh my God, I'm so offended that exists.
I love it. I love it because I like happiness and chaos. You'll see it on my other podcast. But anywho, but yeah, it's that concept of like, you need to know that you want to marry me and marry me now, because that's what I'm working. Most of these people on this show are in their early 20s and they've decided this is my person. And how dare they not want to marry me? I'm going to show them. I'm going to go give somebody else everything that I'm giving them. And I'm going to show them why I'm a lot to lose. And I walk away. I'm like, have any of you tried therapy first? Any of you? Maybe.
Right.
Why doesn't that person want to have kids? Why is that person harping on the finances? Why are they not opening up to you and communicating with you the way you want them to? Why is that a major issue? They're saying that that's the reason why I'm not ready to get married. And you're like, I don't care. Marry me. Or leave me the hell alone. I was like, oh, media's fun.
Hey, this is Mystique.
This is Mr. Everlasting.
And this is the Safe Word.
Safe Word. Y'all make sure y'all join us every first and third Friday of the month. Every month. We are in season 3.
Season 3.
Y'all already know what it is, man. Tap in.